Hey, welcome to Shape with Srini. In this video, I'm going to take you through my journey of building this barn door. So, let me get into the time machine and take you back to the build. Enjoy the video. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave a comment. For this project, I bought one full sheet of 3/4 inch plywood and few 1x4s. I have the dimensions for the barn door, but I don't know how many 1x4s are needed for the pattern I have in mind. So I arranged some 1x4s over plywood to get a good idea of how many I need to buy. This trick almost worked. At the end, I had to buy one extra 1x4. I started the project by cutting plywood using a track saw. The final dimensions of the barn door are 91.5 inches in length and 37.5 inches in width. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch pine board for edge banding. So the plywood cut dimensions are 90 inches in length and 36 inches in width. After cutting plywood, I used a measuring tape to find the center, which is 45 inches, and drew a line using a drywall square. The line will be the reference point of gluing and nailing the 1x4s in the pattern I have in mind. I'm not sure what is the name of the pattern I'm going with, so let's call it a random pattern. Haha. I used a miter saw to cut a 45-degree angle on 1x4 and used a 1x4 as a straight edge and clamped on the reference line I drew before. I took a 1x4 and placed it next to the reference line. This will give the first 45-degree piece for my random pattern barn door. Once I'm okay with the placement, I drew lines. These lines will help for spreading the glue. I rounded over the edges of the top side of 1x4 on a router table. The roundover will give some details to the final outcome, and it did turn out better than what I expected. I missed recording the glue up of first piece of the random pattern. I should feel bad about that, but I am not sure why. Haha. I took another 1x4 and used the first glued piece as reference and also used a speed square to cross check before drawing a line. I used the line as reference for glue and used a foam brush to spread the glue before placing the 1x4 and nailing it to the plywood. I used 1¼ inch pin nails. After gluing and nailing the center 1x4s, I used a miter saw to cut a 45-degree angle on the rest of the 1x4s. Then I arranged a pattern that looked good to me. I marked on top of 1x4s to easily identify the placement for glue up. The markings also help in easily identifying which side to round over. I used a router table to round over the edges. After rounding over the edges, I rearranged the 1x4s on plywood to make sure they are aligned correctly, then cleaned up the surface to remove any dust. I used a speed square to align 1x4s before drawing the lines for glue up. I applied glue and used a foam brush to spread the glue before nailing to plywood. If you are doing a big glue up, marking your pieces will avoid any confusion and will make the glue process go easy. I followed the same process to finish this section of gluing and nailing 1x4s to the plywood. I repeated the same process to glue and nail 1x4s to the plywood. I would like to thank you as you are still watching the video. If you like the build, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram. Your subscription and support means a lot and motivates me to build more. I flipped the barn door to cut excess 1x4s to match the plywood edges. I'm using a track saw for the cut. I aligned the track to the plywood corners and made the cuts on all 4 sides. For edge banding, I am using 1x2 pine boards. I glued and nailed the top and bottom edge banding first so that the end grain will be hidden from the sides. I took measurements and made the cut on the miter saw. I made sure both ends of the top and bottom edge banding are flush. Making it flush will avoid further cuts before edge banding the sides. I use blue tape whenever I edge band longer sides. The blue tape will help to hold the edge banding to the barn door and any adjustments can be made easily. I first stick blue tape to the edge banding and then flip over to apply glue. I apply glue in center and spread the glue in circular motion so that the glue is evenly spread across the work surface. Once all the sides match, I pin nailed edge banding to the barn door. I repeated the same process on the other side as well. For the longer sides, I did not do a flush cut at the ends. Rather, I did leave extra on the corners. That way I am sure they'll be flush once I cut the excess. I used a circular saw and a speed square to cut the excess edge banding. Now it's time for everyone's favorite part of the build, sanding time. I started with 120 grit to make the surface flat and wiped the dust before sanding with 150 grit. Cleaning the dust in between sanding grits ensures nice finish. After 150 grit, I used a palm router to round over the edges and sanded with 180 grit. For the finishing process, I started with back of the barn door. I used mineral spirits to clean the sanding dust and let it dry for 30 minutes. Then I used a Minwax pre-stain conditioner. The pre-stain conditioner will reduce blotching when stain is applied. For the stain, I used Minwax blacks. I used a white rag to apply the stain. I don't want a darker stain, so I applied the stain in portions, then used blue shop towel to remove the excess. I repeated the same process on the other side as well. I did not stain the grooves in the random pattern barn door because I wanted a little contrast between 1x4s. The rounded edges on 1x4s I made on the router table gave this look. Blue shop towels help to remove any excess stain easily. I used a few of them until there were no stain marks on the shop towels. I used wipe-on poly to protect the wood. I applied 3 coats in total and hand sanded with 320 grit in between the coats. I bought the sliding barn door hardware on Amazon. To attach the hardware to the barn door, I placed a straight edge to drill holes for the hangers. I measured the recommended distance between hanger and barn door before drilling the holes. Once I drilled the top hole, I secured the hanger with lag bolt and used it as reference to drill the second hole. Once both holes are drilled, I place the lag bolts in the right direction. I used a 48-inch level to draw a straight line and then used stud finder to locate the studs. I did not remove the door trim, so I used a 1x4 and drilled into the studs. This 1x4 will act as a spacer and will be used to mount the rail. I pre-drilled holes for the rail spacers and lag bolts and mounted the rail. I forgot to record mounting the barn door to the rail. For the floor guide, I used Scotch double-sided tape and did not drill holes into the tiles. Thanks for watching the video. I'll see you in my next build.